Hello, beautiful people, and welcome. In this video, we are talking about our secondary special right triangle, and this is our 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now, sometimes this triangle will be referred to as 60, 30, 90 triangle, but it just is easier to say 30, 60, 90 in my opinion. Now, these triangles have a relationship between its angles and its side. Just like in the previous video where we have our 45, 45, 90 triangle, we have our angle C across the street from our side C. Now the side is going to be a lowercase letter, the angle is going to be an uppercase letter. Now the identification of A versus B for angles, it doesn't really matter if you put A here or A here. It is your choice. I'm just going to put it here. What does matter is that across the street from your uppercase A is your lowercase a, and across the street from your uppercase B is your lowercase b. Now, the opposite of your smallest angle is your smallest side. So the smallest angle that we have is 30. So the opposite of 30 is the smallest side. This is where you're going to have x. The opposite, let's actually do that in a darker color. The opposite from your hypotenuse, which is your the opposite from your C, 90 degrees, which is your hypotenuse, that's the largest angle and the largest side. So that's going to be your hypotenuse, and that's equal to 2x. And now what's left over is this middle side. This middle side is across the street from our middle angle, and that is equal to x times the square root of 3. I'm going to shift this up. We'll talk about this here in just a brief moment. I'm going to shift this up, and I'm going to draw the triangle one more time. So again, smallest angle, smallest side, largest angle, largest side, middle angle, middle side. Now this right here, you need to have memorized that x is across the street from 30, that x times square root of 3 is across the street from 60, and that 2x is across the street from your 90-degree angle. Let's shift this back up and talk about this writing that I did. So we will be converting the short leg to an hypotenuse, the hypotenuse to a short leg. So what you're going to need to do is make sure you're aware of how to convert these. If given to you is a short leg and you want to find out what the hypotenuse is, you're going to multiply that short leg by 2. Now the short leg is across the street from the smallest angle, so this is your short leg, this is your long leg, and this is your hypotenuse. And I usually write hypo for hypotenuse. If you want to convert from your hypotenuse, so if given your hypotenuse and you want to find out what your short leg is, you're going to divide by 2. To convert from your short leg, so short leg is given, and you want to find out what the long leg is, you're going to multiply by the square root of 3. And if you are given the long leg and you want to know what the short leg is, you're going to divide by the square root of 3. Let's go ahead and jump right into some examples. So we have, let's identify first what kind of triangle we have. We have a right triangle that is a 30, 60, 90. So that means I'm going to write in what we have. Across the street from 30, we have x, which we do. Then we have, I'm just going to write here in parentheses, across the street from your hypotenuse, I keep saying that, across the street from the 90-degree angle is your hypotenuse, which is 2x, and across the street from 60 is your x root 3. Now when you write this out next to your triangle, it's easy to see what things are. So for example, this right here, I'm going to bring this forward. I have 9 times root 3, which is equal to x times root 3. And because we can set up these type of equations, we can simply, and I think you already know what the answer is, but I'm going to divide by the square root of 3. So x is left over. These cancel out, so x is equal to 9. We can see that here, that 9 is x, since square root of 3 and square root of 3, they match up. So if 9 is x, that means this side is 9, and this hypotenuse is 2 times 9, which is 18. Let's do that again. Mark it up. First thing to do is mark it up. Across the street from your 90-degree angle is your hypotenuse. Across the street from your 30-degree angle is your x, and your middle angle, 60 degrees, is x times root 3. Now this one tends to be just a little bit more challenging because if you notice, this right here is what we have. So we're going to set up that equation. X is equal to 5 times the square root of 5. That is your x value. So whatever that equals, that's what it equals. To find the hypotenuse, we have 2 times x. Well, if we know that x is 5 times the square root of 5, that means my hypotenuse is going to be 2 times 5 times the square root of 5. Now this goes back to our radical unit, where if things are inside the radical, you can combine them as long as it's multiplication. If things are outside the radical, you can combine things that are outside multiplication. What you cannot do is combine inside the radical with the outside of the radical. So since we have 2 times 5 times the square root of 5, these two are outside of the radical. So we have 2 times 5, which is 10. Square root of 5 is still there, so that means my hypotenuse is now equal to 10 times the square root of 5. And we're left with that third side, which is x times the square root of 3. So let's write that out. This is your long leg. And your long leg is x times the the square root of 3. Well, we know that x, once again, x is equal to 5 times the square root of 5. This is your x value. We're going to multiply that by the square root of 3. So we have 5 times square root of 5 times the square root of 3. And notice that we have 5 and 3 both inside the house, inside the radical, with both having an index of 2. So we get to combine these two together. 5 times 3 is 15. And bring over the 5. So we have 5 times 15. Now sometimes this right here can be simplified by using different factors. In this case, we cannot factor 15 more because we came from 5 and 13. Those are the only factors. Sometimes you can factor more, otherwise just leave it if that is your simplest answer. So this is your long leg. So we have long leg is equal to 5 times the square root of 15. So we have our hypotenuse, we have our long leg, and we have our short leg here. Let's do one more. Again, let's label it, mark it up. Across the street from your right angle is your hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is 2x. Across the street from your 30 degrees is your smallest side, which is x. Across the street from your 60 degrees is your middle side, which is x times the square root of 3. Let's see what information we have. It looks like I have the information for a hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is 2x, which is equal to 16. I'm going to divide by 2 because we would like to solve for x. X is then equal to 8. Now that we know that x is equal to 8, let's write that down. I forgot to write that down. Now that we know that x is equal to 8, we know that the short side is 8, and we know that the longest side is not longest side, I want to correct myself. Longest leg. The longest side is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is always going to be the longest side, but the longest leg. So a triangle I feel like I have to state this, has two legs. You have a leg here and you have a leg here. This right here, if it's a right angle, this is your hypotenuse. So you have a long leg, you have a short leg, unless you have an equilateral or an isosceles triangle. So just be careful with that. All right. X times root 3. I changed colors here. X is 8, so we have 8 times root 3 as your middle side. Let's do 2 more. We got 1 more and then a word problem. Mark it up one more time. Across the street from your 90 degrees is your hypotenuse. Across the street from your 30 degrees is your x. And across the street from your 60 degrees is your x root 3. We have one equation here. X is equal to square root of 6. That means your hypotenuse is 2x, which is 2 times the square root of 6. And your long leg is x times root 3, which means root 6 times root 3, which means we can multiply both inside because they are both inside the house, 18, and then we can simplify this. This is one of those times where, yes, you can simplify it, because I know that the square root of 9 times the square root of 2 is 18, and we know what the square root of 9 is. Square root of 9 is 3. We bring over that root 2. So I'm going to draw up the triangle one more time, so that way we can identify our things. Here's 30 degrees, here's 90, here's 60. Given to us is this square root of 6. Hypotenuse ends up being 2 times root 6, and the long leg ends up being 3 times root 2. Moving on to example number 5. This is going to be our last example before we wrap up this video. A ramp is used to unload trucks. How high is the end of a 50-foot ramp when it is tipped by a 30-degree angle? What if it is tipped by a 45-degree angle? All right, so the ramp is this guy right here, your hypotenuse, and that is 50 feet. We want to know how high the ramp sits on that truck. So we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Here's our 60. On this one, we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So let's do this one first. Just like we did on all of the previous examples. Here's 30. Across the street from 30 is x, which it is. Our hypotenuse is equal to 2x, and our long leg is equal to x times root 3. Now, we don't really care about this long leg here because that's not what it's asking us. But we do care about this x and this hypotenuse. Now, this hypotenuse is the information that's given to us. So 50 is equal to x times 2. So that means I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2. X is then equal to 50 divided by 2, which is 25. So the height, x, is 25 feet when you have a 30-degree angle. Now, what happens to the height if we tip the angle just a little bit more at 45 degrees? Well, this goes back to our previous lesson on the first special right triangle, which is an isosceles triangle, 45, 45, 90. We have x for this side. That means because we have same angles, we have same sides. So 45x, 45x, and this right here is x times the square root of 2. Since we have x times the square root of 2, we're going to set this up as an equation. We're going to divide by 2, divide by 2, square root of 2. That means x is equal to 50 divided by square root of 2. Now, this is not your answer because you need to rationalize the denominator. We're going to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2. So we have 50 times square root of 2 divided by 2 times 2 is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So we have 50 times square root of 2 divided by 2. And again, 50 can be divided by 2, which we saw, which is 25 times the square root of 2, which is our answer. So here we have 25 times the square root of 2, and this is feet. So just a little bit more. If we type that into the calculator, if, for example, they asked us to round, we could have stopped there and rounded on our calculator. So 25 times the square root of 2. Oops, typing all the wrong things in the calculator. 50 times the square root of 2, 25 times the square root of 2, and that is about 35.4 feet. It all depends on the instructions. In this example, they did not write, I did not write, whether you needed to round or give me an exact answer, so I'm going to provide you with both. This right here would be the exact answer, just make sure you write feet, and this one here would be the approximated answer for this question. All right, beautiful people, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!